I couldn't tell you much detail about the narrative in each Monster Hunter title I've played before Wilds. Generally, it seems your player-created character is always reacting, at the behest of quirky village folk, to some environmental catastrophe that's caused the local monster population to go nuts and threaten people as well as other wildlife. As a hunter of monsters, you're on call to reset the balance of nature with a very big sword. It's never been especially memorable and largely has never needed to be. The awesome introductions of incredibly designed monsters and the thrill of the hunting gameplay carries all the weight of any actual narrative intrigue. And at the end of the day, Capcom knows what we're here for. So I found it pretty noteworthy after rolling the first set of credits on Wild's low-rank questlines that I couldn't stop thinking about how effectively the game seemed to weave an inspirational through-line that for the first time placed people at the heart of its story. Wilds opens with your hunting group arriving in the Forbidden Lands, believed to be uninhabited. Just as your airship crosses the border, however, a young boy named Nata is found passed out, presumably from trekking through untold miles of desert. After rescuing the child, you learn he's from a secretive tribe called the Keepers, and was chased out by a mysterious monster. This event is the first clue that your intel is wrong. There are people in and from this new land. Sadly, Nata has no idea how to return home, so your group takes it upon themselves to help find the Keepers. Before long, the group runs into another distressed child, this time a young girl named Nona, fleeing a vicious pack of Balahara upon the back of a large landbird, a sacred. Spotting another sacred running alongside the stampede, your hunter leaps to her rescue, ultimately bringing her to safety and adding another kid to the drop-off queue. But unlike Nata, Nona isn't alone. Her sacred leads you to her older brother Isai's last known location, and after a monster fight, you help reunite the siblings. This act of heroism compels them to lend you one of their sacred for your own use, as it helps you chase down Nona and fight off the Chotacabra attacking Isai. The sacred is a new core gameplay addition to Monster Hunter Wilds. Similar to the Palamutes of Rise, they will automatically shepherd you to a chosen destination, and enable item use and weapon sharpening while in swift transit. You can launch attacks while mounted, and they'll even scoop you up out of danger when you're knocked down. Without the sacred, hunts would be a great deal more difficult, and the game even lets you get a taste of that reality when Isai is reprimanded by his village's authorities for freely allowing outsiders to make use of them, and the birds are seized back. Despite you and the hunting party arriving in their lands as swashbuckling heroes and problem solvers, this stint of being left to your own devices in their vast wilderness paints a very different picture. You kind of need the help of the native population. A lot of games position the protagonist as a great savior of special caliber, but there's an earnest attempt in Wilds to paint you and your expedition as benefiting from a symbiotic relationship with the world that has long existed before you. It's honestly refreshing and humbling, but make no mistake, you are still a complete badass. The now staple 14 weapon classes return with some new moves and new combo potential as a result. Long-range options like the bow and bow guns benefit greatly from special ammo types now recharging from normal attacks, rather than relying on limited ammo. Adjustments to special bar-reliant weapons like the longsword and dual blades now have quicker options for unleashing big finishing moves, allowing more freedom in weaving them into freestyle combos. And the biggest new combat feature is the focus mode, which adds an unprecedented amount of control over your positioning, allowing you to adjust your aim on a high-commitment weapon like the greatsword even in the middle of a swing. More than the added control, focus mode will allow you to see wounds you've created on a monster, and landing a focus attack on a wound will trigger a spectacular finisher that causes a ton of damage and a potential opening for more to follow. It's a really fun new meta to explore and exploit for skilled hunters. I do still miss the high-flying antics of the wire bugs from Monster Hunter Rise, but there's a strong case to be made for focus mode's heavier, more grounded combat experience. It's your group's expertise at dispatching monsters that proves to be your bargaining chip to add value to the Forbidden Lands. When the same guard who confiscated your sacred is in trouble, Isai returns the bird to you to help save him. This event endears the entire village to your group, granting access to the sacred to all other hunters as well. The idea of crafting weapons to slay monsters is a completely foreign concept to the people in the Forbidden Lands. Many of the characters you meet for the first time over the course of the story are confused and amazed at just the sight of the hulking weapon upon your back. They've used defensive measures, like the gem chime strung all along Kunafa to repel certain monsters, and largely lived in isolated villages with limited migration to others, in order to avoid danger. So your ability to hunt enables deeper connections between the communities in the Forbidden Lands. In a first for the Monster Hunter series, the map in Wilds is a large open world, but though you can freely travel from one zone like the opening Windswept Plains to another like the Scarlet Forest, they are separated by narrow canyons or otherwise noticeable dividing landscapes, that still give the feel of separate biomes that you're better off fast traveling between. That said, I'm not so sure a blanket open world would really improve anything in particular, especially considering just how big and filled with variety each individual biome is on its own. Add to that the fact that extreme weather phenomena occur all over the region, and you get to see areas transform directly before your eyes. The desert dunes of the opening hours can descend into a dangerous electrical sandstorm, before relenting to reveal gorgeously picturesque wheat-filled plains. The Scarlet Forest can be flooded entirely during a heavy downpour, presenting new terrain and monster threats as well. Your expedition has to be taught about these nuanced cycles by the local population, and you use that information to intervene when monsters get out of hand. Monsters are still literally the name of the game here, and Wilds pulls out all of the stops with not just incredible design and detail on each big target monster, but also the small monsters and endemic creatures that fill each area with believably abundant life. While there's still a load of cool dragon varieties like the electric railgun dragon Rei Dao, I squared off with an oil sac-filled mosquito/praying mantis called Rampopolo and a razor teeth-lined octopus called Un-Erda, which are some of the strangest creatures I've seen from the franchise to date. Studying up on each new monster's weaknesses and preparing to take them out with minimal carts is again aided by the communities you've met. Almost every familiar system of the Monster Hunter gameplay formula is filtered through this lens of cultural cooperation. The farming system that allows you to generate specific items you need for your loadouts is now handled by different tribes you befriend across the region. Melting gems that allow you to tweak and improve abilities is an old secret technique of a specific tribe. The arena where you fight monsters in an enclosed space is the sacred prayer site of another, and instead of heading to a Palico chef to make your pre-hunt meals, you're invited to break bread with the various denizens you've helped, like Isai's family, who treat you to a mouth-watering cheese naan banquet. You retain the ability to barbecue pretty much anywhere with a variety of ingredients to prepare for a hunt, but the longest-lasting buffs come from a home-cooked meal shared with friends. Speaking of which, co-op multiplayer appears to have been streamlined quite a bit. Based on your preferences, friends or randos can jump into and out of your sessions with no disruption to whatever you happen to be doing at the time. SOS flares that invite help to hunts can be fired right at the start, even on story missions, and if you're offline, AI-controlled hunters from base camp will jump in to help. Larger groups of friends can create squads and fill game sessions with just people you know, though actual hunts will still only allow 4 players. But with support for crossplay, your hunter squads will be as big as ever. In fact, I think it's safe to say that Monster Hunter Wilds may be the most accessible the series has ever been. Any of your friends who are still holding out may want to finally give this one a try, especially if they've bounced off of World. The game even recommends weapons and armor for you to craft as you make your way through the story, and they keep everything before that first roll of credits rather straightforward. You won't need to do capture quests or complete any other side objectives to unlock new gameplay tools. Those all get introduced after the initial story closes. I don't want to sell the narrative in Wilds as any sort of high watermark for video games in the grand scheme. It's just that its multicultural motif of people with varying traditions and techniques accepting new information from their neighbors and working together to advance just really appeals to me. The story hits these notes with broad strokes, rather than impressing these values with any truly standout character moments or dialogue. But it resonates successfully and is expressed implicitly through the gameplay. Monster Hunter Wilds is poised to be one of the biggest ever game releases from Capcom. They've crafted a campaign that actually has something to say. In an era where the world feels more divided than ever before, Wilds shows us that when diverse people truly work together, we can adapt to whatever our environment attempts to throw at us, or if necessary, take down even the biggest monsters.